Welcome to the Pitch Strike Chronicles. I am Tess. I am here with Rob and Donald, and we will be breaking down the nonsense of a press conference from last week with Boone and Cashman and some other things that are going on in the Yankee world. Stay tuned for some Yankee baseball on Pitch Strike Chronicles. Good morning, happy Tuesday, and welcome to the Pitch Strike Chronicles. And we had a kind of like a BS presser from the Yankee brass with Cashman and Boone last week, and we haven't had a chance to really break it down. And the first thing that I thought of is, why are they having Cashman speak so early after the season when he's not even under contract to discuss anything that the Yankees are even going to be doing?
That's just standard after the season press conference, but it is unusual that he's not got a contract yet. It's once again, it's Hal Steinbrenner is just such a strange owner. You know, he's already locked in on Brian Cashman, yet he's not got him contractually sorted out. So he's kind of doing really important business for the Yankees' future while he's not actually under contract. It's very strange, but it's a typical Hal Steinbrenner. But what I took away from what Brian Cashman said is that people don't get fired if the results aren't there as long as they followed the process. This process, are you freaking kidding me? People don't get fired over results as long as they follow the process? It's so depressing. I mean, that was actually the most honest Brian Cashman's ever been in the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, that's true.
He is a lying scumbag, but that was actually the most honest he's ever been. That's exactly what it is. As long as his employees do exactly what he tells them to do, then it doesn't matter what happens on the field. Now, imagine that.
It's just a joke. It really is. You know, and if anybody in their job was as bad as they are, they would not have a job to go to. I mean, you talk, you know, everybody's talking to, you know, you get the talk with union jobs. How, you know, it's so hard to get fired, you know, when you're in a union because you had that protection. I mean, it's like Cashman's probably got more protection than any other job that I've ever heard of. And that's just it's not fair to us as fans, because we expect a winning product and we're not getting it to the level that Yankee fans expect. Like we said, this is not Pittsburgh or, you know, even San Diego as far as they went. You know, you're expected to go to the World Series. It's not like you're expected to just make the playoffs and hope everything falls your way. So with that in mind, it's, how can they just continue to just keep running it back over and over and over and not getting anything out of it?
I don't know why everyone's so surprised at this press conference. It's exactly what we thought what was going to be said. Every single thing they said was, you could have picked up the script from last year's press conference and just brought it back to this one.
Yeah.
They make the same excuses. They say the same thing every single year. Oh, well, you know, we were close. We felt like we had a good team. Obviously, we didn't get to where we want to go. We know what the ultimate goal is. We want to be the last team standing, blah, blah, blah. Even though at the beginning of the season, they said no excuses. Then at the end of the season, they bring up all the excuses. It's the same thing every single year. So I was not surprised. I'm not going to get pissed off about this press conference. I'm not going to get angry. I'm not going to raise my voice because I am just deflated because I'm so used to it. I'm numb to Brian Cashman's nonsense. And if the fans act the same way and they just be like, because we know nothing's going to change. So I don't know why everyone's getting worked up about it. Like, yeah, we should be upset that this is what we have, but they're not going to change it. So I'm not going to like let it affect me anymore because I'm just numb to it. It's like a drug, basically. You know, the Yankees are like a drug, and not a good one. Not a good one. They just make you feel like crap. And now I feel like crap all the time, thinking about every time Brian Cashman opens his mouth, I just get sprayed with vomit. That's basically what he does. So until they
Brian
make
Cashman's the abusive girlfriend. That's what he is. It's what the Yankees are. They're the abusive girlfriend. They treat you like crap, but you seem tied to it for some reason that you can't quite put a finger on, and you just have to put up with it. I get what you're saying, Rob. I know that you're deflated. I'm certainly deflated too, and I wasn't expecting anything from the press conference, and everything that they said was exactly what we would have predicted, verbatim, line for line. But just the fact that he verbalized the fact that results don't matter anymore, that's what I'm pissed off. That's what I'm pissed off at.
That, if I can cut you off for just a second, I'm sorry. That is what one thing I will get angry about is like, how can you say that when you're a team that's expected to win a World Series? There's no process here. You're not building anything. The process would have been, you can say that after 2017. Be like, yeah, even though we were short of our goal, we got to believe in the process. Okay, I can buy into that because 2017 went far better than anyone could have thought.
Yeah, that was a process.
Yeah, you can't say that anymore after this year because this year you're supposed to win the World Series. Last year you're supposed to win the World Series. 2019, 2020. Once you pick up Stanton, now you're the Yankees again. You're expected to go all the way. And I mean, if you do, it's not every single year, but every year you don't, and you say it's a process. No. You told us 2 years ago that we want to win championships. You haven't brought us one yet, so there's no more process. That I will agree with you. I can get angry about that. Everything else is just word vomit, repeat from last year.
Absolutely. I mean, to go further to your point, as soon as he brought in Garrett Cole, who, as Brian Cashman told Hal Steinbrenner, pay what it takes to get him because he's our white whale and he's going to win us a championship. He's a missing piece. That's a lie. He isn't the missing piece because as good as he's been pretty much what we hoped he'd be. The team isn't any closer to a championship than it was in 2017. But excuses, it's injuries. Oh, it's injuries. It's nothing to do with me. It's injuries. I mean, it's really hard to get behind what message that they're selling. It's spin, it's gaslighting, and they're kind of at war with their fan base because they know that the fans are unhappy and they want change, so that they send out their media minions to send out stuff like, "Oh, we're spoiled. We don't know anything about baseball as much as we know. We are the great minds of baseball," and it's just, and then they just continue to troll us by having these press conferences where they tell us nothing's going to change. We're good. It's really amazing. They are literally at war with our fan base.
It's and we've been saying it, and I've been saying it for forever, even before the podcast. We even started doing these shows. The problem with the Yankees is, when they brought in Cole, it was, we need pitching. We don't have a number one pitcher, but it's the offense that continues to let us down in the postseason. So you can improve the pitching all you want. If you're not getting the offensive production with timely hits, it ain't going to matter who you got. You could have Cole, DeGrom, Scherzer, and Verlander in the same rotation. If you're not getting timely hits, what does it matter? But Michael's right in his comment here. Why does nothing change? Because no matter what, Yankee fans will fill the stands, spend the money, and continue to enrich the Yankees.
Which is all Hal Steinbrenner cares about.
Yep. That's all it is. It's all about his chicken buckets. That's all.
I will say this, and it might not be very popular, but the Yankees roster, minus a couple of numbskulls, had what it took to be a championship winning team.
Yeah.
Because the recipe for success in October was proven once again this past postseason. You need to have good enough starting pitching, timely hitting, specifically the home run ball with guys are on base, and a very good bullpen. The Houston Astros did all of that. Their starting pitching was great, but one of their best guys didn't really do a very good job, and Verlander didn't matter. Their offense didn't put up 10 runs a game, but they got the big home run when they got guys on base, even if it was a double, but they get the big hit. But then Alvarez getting the 3-run home run. That's enough because their bullpen is going to lock it down at the end of the game. So the Yankees had that. They have the home run hitters. They have the starting pitching, and they had before, and I use the injury excuse for that, they had the bullpen that should have been able to lock it down. Their issue is every single year is they don't get the timely hit. So they brought in the guys that would have gotten you that, Benintendi and LeMahieu, but they weren't there. So someone needs to step up, and they did. The Yankees' recipe for success in October was let's hit the solo home run and hope that it helps us. It doesn't. So it's there. They just need to, I don't know, get something that's going to prevent these guys from getting hurt for so long, or maybe stop signing these 30-something-year-olds, like these 33-year-olds, and be like, go win us something. Don't get a Josh Donaldson. Maybe play your shortstop that's doing very good in 30 games or things like that. The recipe is there. They're just too stubborn to get off of their we want to prove you right ego that he has. So that's we want to prove ourselves right. We want to prove you wrong. It's the ego. So I just made a long dribble there, but in short, it's there. They don't want to put the right pieces back on the field to add to what we already have, because half of our offense is currently free agents right now. Literally half of our offense is in the free agent pool in Judge and Rizzo.
The blueprint was there. They focused on defense, and they wanted to bring in contact hitting. That's what they wanted to do. That was their process. The blueprint was there, but the delivery wasn't there because they brought in IKF and Josh Donaldson, who are both below average offensively. And then obviously IKF was a disaster at shortstop, below average defensively too. So the trade was a complete disaster, but the blueprint was there. That's what they wanted to do, but they didn't deliver it, and that's down to the general manager. And they couldn't move past their own egos because clearly IKF wasn't working. Clearly Josh Donaldson was going really badly, but they couldn't move off their own egos because, well, they made that decision, and that's why we didn't see Peraza. It was because they had to double down on it. Let me finish. They didn't have to double down on IKF. So what I'm saying is the blueprint was there. Rob's right, but the management isn't there. And that's down to the management, man. So it doesn't really matter. We could have 9 all-stars on the roster batting every single day, and I would not be confident because I do not believe that this general manager and this manager tandem will ever win us a championship. It just will not happen. Because the 2018-2019 team was loaded and ready for bear, and they got knocked out with no problem in the playoffs. It wasn't even close, right? Aaron Boone has done such a bad job with this roster in the playoffs. This team should have been in the World Series at least a couple times. The talent is there, but the management wasn't. But the thing is, Brian Cashman loves his yes man. He's only interested in yes man. He's not interested in being challenged. He doesn't want a manager to go, okay, I see what you're saying, but this is actually better. I trust this guy more. I can see his heart. His heart is ready to go. But that's not what the analytics people want. That's not what Brian Cashman wants. So as long as they do exactly what he tells them to do, then they'll never lose a job.
No, it's to your point and to Rob's, to combine it to my thought, is the Yankees had the right blueprint. They had the right idea of shoring up the defense this past offseason. What they did was they went one player too far with Donaldson rather than just using IKF. If you wanted to get improve your defense, you could have gotten IKF. We already had Urshela. You didn't really need to make the move at all. But it was what it was with IKF. You could have put him in third base where that is his strength. You knew that Peraza was ready on the defensive side, but his bat was just maybe a little bit behind. You could have had him working on his offense in the major leagues right from the beginning of the season. But the Yankees don't call up their prospects until it's too late, or they misuse them. So you would have already had your third base and shortstop defense already at a premiere. But no, you had to get cute and sign the veteran because you wanted that veteran presence. In Donaldson, where you already had veterans in Rizzo and LeMahieu, Judge is not Stanton, and so you already had the veteran voices in the dugout.
And here's what's disturbing in that press conference. Most of the press conference, if it wasn't about injuries, or if it wasn't about process, it was about doubling down on IKF and Josh Donaldson. The amount of excuses that we heard from Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman, mostly Aaron Boone, I have to say. Brian Cashman did say that Josh Donaldson wasn't who he thought he would be offensively. Aaron Boone couldn't actually say the words. He couldn't even put in even a syllable of criticism. It was like, I love this defense. Okay. Right? And that's what it was. It was just doubling down. And then, the stuff they said about IKF, you would think that IKF is like king. You know what I mean? He's like, you would think that he is the all-star of the roster. The amount of times that they spent fluffing him up during that. They said more about IKF than they ever did about Aaron Judge, who had 62 home runs. I don't know, IKF had a great year. IKF was amazing. IKF is this. IKF. Are you freaking kidding me? It's all about ego. It's all about justifying themselves. It is not about results. But we already knew that. It's just we got told that. And that's what I'm amazed at. Like, wow, the lying scumbag finally actually told the truth. And it is not a good truth. It's actually one of the most disturbing truths, considering the only excuse that you have of saying process over results is if you're rebuilding, not if you're trying to win a World Series.
No, you're right. And we can go back to that trade all offseason because we're probably going to have to because they're not going to do too much to change it unless they get rid of Donaldson. But how many times have we said it? You didn't need to make the move because if all you wanted to do was get rid of Gary Sanchez, you could have just traded him for anything. There is any team out there would have given you a low tier prospect just for a year of Gary Sanchez. Well, maybe a change of scenery, he might pop 20 out of the DH spot. A National League team could have been like, you know what, we'll take a shot because you did the same thing with Luke Voigt and you got a pretty decent prospect for him. So you could have gotten something similar for Gary Sanchez and still made the Trevino trade because nobody expected it to be what it was. And that would have shored up your defense because you would have still had a shortstop playing or third base playing shortstop, and LeMahieu did just fine at third. In fact, he was better analytically at third than he was at second because he played more at third this year because Gleyber Torres was actually the best he's ever been at second base this year. He was not elite, but he was incredible this year at second. Analytically, he ranked out pretty well. Your infield would have been just fine without this trade. And you would have had, guess what, more money to give to, I don't know, your best player and avoid what's about to happen this offseason, which is going to be a potential $400 million deal is to keep him in the Bronx. So it all points back to our GM. The problems are with the GM. I said it before. I will not put a lot of blame on Hal. I think he's a dope, but at the same time, he is giving Cashman a lot of money to spend every single year. And Brian Cashman's giving it to relief pitchers, bad ones at that. He's giving it to Aaron Hicks. He's giving it to Josh Donaldson. He's giving it to players that are not going to help you win a World Series. So you want to point fingers. It all starts with the GM. You got to put like the target. Like who is the reason for the Yankees' problem? Boom, it's right there. But he will never, ever admit that he's wrong about anything. And that's his issue. So until the Yankees make a change, I'm just going to be like, whatever happens, happens. I do think we're going to get Aaron Judge back. I think they're going to make some moves this offseason. John Heyman just posted earlier that the Marlins are probably going to put Lopez on the market again, so maybe we revisit that. You can build this team via trades, and if you bring back Judge and Rizzo, your offense is back. And if you just trust what you have in your farm system that you built, Brian Cashman, then maybe we'll be a lot better. But until they make an organizational change and clear out that front office, it's going to be – even Boone even said they're not going to change their approach in the 162-game season. They're not going off of what their approach is. So if you're expecting anything different next year, don't. Just don't, because Aaron Boone already told you, don't. We're not changing anything.
No, and that goes right into Chris Flesh's comment. Cash tries to be the smartest in the room and always looks dumb. That's exactly it. That's what every Yankee fan is saying.
Oswaldo Peraza should have been the shortstop, just like the Astros just had their World Series MVP, their rookie shortstop. It's more than possible to trust your shortstop. That's the thing about the Astros, man. They've been done for cheating, whatever, but they got rid of their general manager, brought in a new general manager, and they're better than they were before. They're a really good roster. They lose dudes like they lose dudes that are really freaking good, and they come back and they regenerate with good rookies, and that's a really good organization. But the Yankees aren't a really good organization. They're as I say, yeah, you're quite right, man. Brian Cashman just is more obsessed with proving to us that he's smarter than everyone else. As I say, he spent that whole press conference justifying IKF and Josh Donaldson instead of focusing on the results. And that's what's really scary to me. And then nothing's ever going to change with that. That's going to continue to happen.
But that's where Cashman is so behind the 8 ball on everything, where he has no grasp on reality of baseball at the current time of the game. The Astros trusted their process and they got the results. The Yankees don't have that ability because, like Chris said, he's got to be the smartest man in the room. But there's also the false narrative of the Yankees being cheap. And I think that's a narrative that really needs to disappear, because Hal is letting the money be spent, but you keep bringing back this GM that doesn't know how to spend it wisely. So we can't blame the Steinbrenners for that. The Steinbrenners only get to blame for keep running it back over and over again, getting the same shorthanded results of not making the World Series. At least at this point, just make the World Series.
We have a $260 million payroll, and we have how many league average offensive players on our roster? Like 3?
Or below league average. I mean, think about the money that's going to these guys. We've already named them. Zach Britton barely pitched for us this year. Aroldis Chapman left the team. Aaron Hicks, bad. Josh Donaldson, bad. Just those 4 players. How much money went to those 4 players alone? Yeah. Just think about that for a second. And we're not going to talk about, you gave a lot of money to Rizzo, but he was our second best player. You're paying a lot of money to Giancarlo Stanton, but I will never complain about that because he's been nothing but great for us, aside from the injuries. And they're not paying their best player. They're not paying. They went to arbitration. They were arguing over $2 freaking million for Aaron Judge's arbitration. Are you kidding me? He wanted 21. They wanted 17. They couldn't meet in the middle and just hopefully just give him that or give him his 21 or whatever the number was and say, let's use that as a hopefully we can negotiate in good faith at the All-Star break or something. But nope, they had to be stubborn. This all points back to the GM. He allocates the money so terribly, and I'm so sick of it. But he's still here. They're operating under a handshake deal. So if you don't think he's going to be back for another couple of years, he's going to be here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yes. But you know what? We did actually say when Brian Cashman went public with the failed contract negotiations. I know that Rob, I know myself, and Tats, we went to town on that decision because we were like, why are you goading your best player to get pissed off? Why are you trying to piss off our best player and asset? And it backfired. But of course, it's all the fans' fault because we're rude and we're vulgar and we're spoiled and all that stuff, apparently, according to the Yankees. But we did say, if you start poking the bear and pissing off your best player, then, I mean, F around and find out. And Cashman F'd around, and he's found out. So it's all on Brian Cashman. Lucas says, "Sup, fellas, thank you, man." So you remember the last episode we went into Bob Clappish, how he tore into the Yankee fans? Yep. Well, he's just had an about face. Hey, Hal Steinbrenner, don't you dare ghost Yankee fans. So it's really funny here. He says, what a shame it was to watch and listen to the Yankees wasted a chance to make peace with their traumatized fans. So now it's a traumatized fan base.
Now it's traumatized.
I think it was spoiled and vulgar and this, that, and the other. He says that Hal Steinbrenner should have been there, but of course he wasn't. He says Steinbrenner was a no-show at the stadium where the press conference was held. It was instead left for manager Aaron Boone and general manager to assess the damage. They answered every question fully, but the net effect was depressing, if not disastrous. And he, you know what? fair play to him, because that's exactly what it was. It was almost disastrous. He says Boone and Cashman are clearly out of touch with the public's misery. Slowly, year after year, the Yankees brand has been devalued. They've moved south from perennial monsters to also-rans. So he says, how much longer does ownership expect ticket buyers to maintain their blind loyalty to the Yankees? So finally, we have an article where the truth is being pointed in the right direction and not pointed towards the fans. The fans had nothing to do with the terrible mismanagement. Why is Hal Steinbrenner, again, an absentee owner? And it was a disastrous press conference.
No, and
would you disagree?
No, I think you're right. And it was just like, when the boys in the Big Apple tweeted out, they were better off just having all the content creators ask the questions rather than the reporters, because you would have actually been, they would have been pressed a little harder on key issues that the fans want to hear about, rather than just the lip service of the reporters to make sure that they get invited back to the clubhouse in the next presser.
Bob Clappish is an idiot, because he just a week ago he told us that we're the problem, and now he's saying that the fans are blindly paying or whatever their loyalty. Which one is it? Are we loyal or are we assholes? Sorry for cursing. So please make a decision, Clappish. And this is why I don't like listening or reading the media anymore. There's only so few of them that I can listen to and be like, he's genuine. Because we know Clappish is bought. And the fact that he's actually attacking Hal a little bit isn't going to really do much, because he's probably going to put out an article in 2 weeks when they re-sign Aaron Judge saying Hal is all in or whatever. You see, he's not cheap. So just wait for it. It's annoying.
You're right. Both talk out of both sides of their mouth. I mean, even Michael Kay went after the fans the other day for the press conference and saying it was the fans' fault for having expectations. That's what he said. Don LeGrec had jumped on his throat for that. But Michael Kay said it was the fans' fault for having expectations. Imagine that.
Of course we have expectations.
That's all we can have. We don't put the team together. It's all we can have is expectations. That's it.
That's what I'm talking about. This organization is all about spin and narrative and not results to cover everyone's own asses. I'm not surprised. I guarantee you Michael Kay got his ass fell for going after the Yankee organization during the playoffs. You know what I mean? It's a term. But yeah, you know what I mean? He obviously got somebody in his ear going, you need to cool down on criticizing our Yankees. And he's done an about face, and now he's going after the fans again.
They put the musket, because they're so old. The whole organization's relics, so they put the musket to his head, like, "Hey, turn back on that." And he's like, "Hey, on the second thought, maybe they're not to blame. It's you guys." So that's where it all started. Once Michael Kay said what he said, you realize right after that, that's when they said, "Oh, the fans were so vulgar." So it was the Yankees organization. They were like, "Hey, this doesn't look good." They did it. I'm so sick of it. But again, we've gone through it. How old this team is in terms of their front office. Everybody was hired in 2007 or before. Yeah, right. Are you running why don't you go run for politics then? Because I'm sure people will vote for Brian Cashman, because a lot of people believe his nonsense. He's actually a perfect politician because he just spews bullshit out of his mouth. Go vote. So yeah, at this point in time, I have zero expectations for the offseason aside from you bring back Judge, you bring back Rizzo, maybe you bring back Benintendi, and they're going to run it back with a very similar roster, and they will add via some trades because they still have some holes, because I still think the team is good if you bring back those two or those three players. And I think the team is very good. Good enough.
Man, I will do you proud. Don't worry. You'll always get honesty from me, man. You will always get honesty from me.
It's really is, because we all know it's exactly what's going to happen. They're just going to run back the same bullshit that, we were in the market for these players. It just wasn't, the numbers didn't work out. We have a lot of guys in the minor leagues that can contribute, but we're never going to use them. But we have them, but we just won't use them. That's the Yankee process.
Which is what bothers me the most. Is the thing that bothers me the most about Cashman is the way he uses or doesn't use prospects, because this is literally his farm system. It's not an inherited farm system. He built it, and to his credit, he built a very good farm system, because it used to be bad. Like, we used to have maybe 3 good prospects and then just garbage. Now we have a top 10 that even after this trade deadline is still very formidable, a very good top 10. It's not top in the league anymore, but it's like middle of the pack. It's still a good system of a lot of guys that will be major league ready very soon. But he doesn't use these guys. His own players that he is bringing in, he doesn't want to use, because I can't take Josh Donaldson out of the lineup. How could I? We're paying him so much money. You should have never freaking traded for him, because you already had you had 2 third basemen on the roster. One was going to play shortstop. So how do we fix our infield? Let's bring in 2 third basemen. It didn't make sense. It never made sense. And my first reaction to that trade was puzzling. Donald was angry about it, and rightfully so. I thought Donaldson would be better. Here come the landscapers, but it's just Brian Cashman's nonsense over and over and over. And until he's gone, nothing will change.
There you go, man. That's 100%. I completely agree with you, bro. What have we got here? Who do you guys think will be the next big free agent to fall? From MH. What would you say? Trey Turner?
No, I'm going to say that Cohen stays on in the headlines. I think he's going to get the ground done pretty quick.
Judge might set the market. It might be a case where Aaron Judge sets the market, because you need a player to set the market. Whether it's Judge or whether it's another star like a Carlos Correa or a Trey Turner, they will set the market, and then the next free agent will be used in conjunction with that. So say if Aaron Judge gets 35, 36 AAV, then they will work around that number for the next star free agent, going, okay, well, I think we can maybe go for 30 or 31, depending on who it is. So that's going to be very important. I always say we don't trade for what we need. Then when it's too late, he brings them up, and then they don't perform, so they lose their value. He's 100% right, man. The thing was, they're obviously obsessed with their process and their analytics, right? What analytic told them that Josh Donaldson would be what would you say, about $49 million better than Gio Urshela? You know what I mean? Because that's what it all comes down to. Value in relation to money and war, etc., like that. All that stuff comes into play, right? Now, as it turned out, Gio Urshela's war was much better than Josh Donaldson's, and it wasn't even close. But when they went to this trade, did they really honestly think that Josh Donaldson would be like 50 times better than Gio Urshela? Because that's basically what it comes down to. That's what the analytics is there for. You look at the numbers, you look at their value, right? What is their value in relation to production? That's where it all comes down to. But the truth is, Brian Cashman completely screwed it up, because there's not one person that could convince me that Josh Donaldson is 50 times better than Gio Urshela. I mean, what the hell? What are we expecting here? Josh Donaldson to roll back the years and have an MVP year at 36 years old? What are you, out of your freaking mind?
Exit velocity. That's what they were looking at. They were looking at his exit velocity and the fact that he would hit more home runs. But he didn't do that this year, did he? Once you saw the first 2 months of the season go the way they did, and when he opened his mouth to Tim Anderson, he started a media spiral that did not need to be started. Yeah. And from that point on, things were kind of for the Yankees. They kept winning despite it, but like you can tell that this was going to be an issue for a little while, and it eventually went away, but he just never played well. You can't tell me that his glove is worth $25 million a year against the ever so important luxury tax. It isn't. There's nothing he can do with the glove that makes him worth $25 million that Gio Urshela can't do.
No, it's Donaldson. And then the other excuse that they had for him was the one with
I agree, Michael H.
Yeah, is well, because of the lockout, and it was the season was a little delayed, so his timing wasn't where it was supposed to be, where we expected it to be. Enough with the excuses. The guy just sucked. Just say it. Just say what we all know. And I understand and I respect that he talks very softly when criticizing the players because he's the manager and he wants to have their back. I get it. It's respected. But when you're addressing a fan base, you need to just give us a little bit more honesty in your answers, because we don't want lip service. We want, we're not looking for a process. We want results.
Does Judge have a mystery team? Let's get this coming up in the chat. Does Judge have a mystery team to throw him a deal? Remember very vividly that Pujols had St. Louis, Angels, and a mystery team that wanted to sneak in. Pretty bizarre.
It was the Marlins that wanted to sneak in on Pujols. I think it's Yankees, Giants, and if there's a mystery team, I think it will be someone in the National League. The Dodgers, they could never be a mystery, but yeah, that's scary because they don't care. I know the Mets aren't going after him. Maybe a team like St. Louis might enter that sweepstakes because they don't seem to really care about money because they got the Rockies to pay them to take Nolan Arenado, so they got some money to spend. Maybe they go and all.
The Rangers have a lot of money to spend.
They do.
There was also the false report, which a lot of people fell for, with DeGrom signing with the Rangers. I don't know if you guys saw that, but that's the other thing that we get to look forward to this offseason is the rumor mill.
Who keeps falling for these pages? Like
I know.
I'm noticing a trend. It's a lot of people that are like
possible
older. They were like around when Maris broke the record, and they're like, "Oh, did you see that the Yankees signed this?"
Yeah, don't blame me.
Seattle's a good, interesting one because their general manager wants to go all out. Remember, he upped the Yankees and got Castillo, and the Yankees had to settle for their second choice.
Good point.
And they extended Castillo.
Yeah.
Dude, if you put Aaron Judge in that Seattle lineup, they beat Houston easy.
Oh yeah,
I don't know about easy, but they would beat Houston.
No, it would make it extremely interesting in that division.
None of this matters, though, because he will be wearing pinstripes next year. Yeah. However, there's a lot of teams that would be foolish to not at least enter the discussions with him. Like, hey, what's it going to take to bring you? This is one of the best players in baseball attending free agency. Once again, that's another X on Brian Cashman's ledger because he's letting this guy enter free agency.
Yeah,
so,
didn't need to do it. Did you guys see what Derek Jeter's interview? Very honest interview where – did you guys see the video?
I saw one clip.
It's trending on Twitter. Do you know what I'm referring to?
No, the only clip I saw of it was when he was criticizing how the baseball's too analytical.
Well, he didn't. Yeah, well, he didn't really criticize it. He just basically, I think it was a pointed criticism at Brian Cashman because he said that Joe Torre always said you can't measure heartbeat. He says if you're not analyzing analytics and you're not doing your job. However, there's still a very important place in managing heart and how someone's going to handle different scenarios. You can't just have somebody come from Milwaukee and end up in New York and expect exactly the same production because the expectations are different. So that case in point, Joey Gallo. So I think it was more of a pointed criticism at the Yankee front office. But what Derek Jeter said in a later clip was he said that after the season was over, when his contract was up, he said to his agent, if there's any clubs that are calling, tell them I'm not interested. I'm not going anywhere, right? And then he went to Brian Cashman. He sat down with Brian Cashman, and he says, I'm not going anywhere. I've just told my agent I'm not going anywhere. So let's just make a deal. The only thing I'm asking you not to do is don't make it public, right? That's just out of respect. Don't make this negotiation public. He says, I know that I'm not doing what's maybe right for the top value for my name. I don't care. I want to be a Yankee. That's all I'm interested in, right? What did Brian Cashman do? Okay, no problem. And then he goes outside and then he makes it public. And Derek Jeter was pissed. And that's why Derek Jeter's never really forgiven Brian Cashman. So this is what we're talking about here. We are talking about a Class A scumbag. And guess what he did? Did exactly the same to Aaron Judge. He's like, oh, okay, yeah, we won't make it public. And he goes outside and makes it public. He is a scumbag of the highest order.
And what made it worse with Cashman with Judge is he announced that if Judge didn't sign, he was going to expose what the numbers were.
Yep.
It's like you're gonna, you stabbed the guy in the back, and then you told him about it first, and then waited for him to turn around. I mean, this is a guy that the Steinbrenners want to put their business in the hands of. You saw this. You saw this was the only option in a GM. It's come on now. It's getting exhausting having to deal with the same shit every offseason.
He's just such a scumbag, man.
Scumbag is the right word. Chris the Flash here says, I don't know why. I have a feeling we might sign Correa. I highly, highly doubt that we sign Correa. I see a lot of people saying sign him and have him play third. And then they say, oh, Peraza will be the shortstop. They didn't want to take IKF out of shortstop for Peraza. What makes you think they're going to sign Correa to this mega deal on top of re-signing Aaron Judge and then move him to third?
Guess what? We could have done it last year. We didn't need to make that frickin' trade because the funny thing about Mr. Scumbag is that trade actually allowed Minnesota to go and get Carlos Correa in the first place. If he didn't give Minnesota that beautiful gift of taking on Josh Donaldson's $50 million without even a question, willingly, then Correa would never be in Minnesota, and the Yankees could have just gone.
The Yankees could have signed.
Well, you know what? I could put him at third, or I could put him at short. And then I could move him to third once Perez is ready. That's actually so common sense, and it would have been cheaper than Donaldson plus IKF in the one go. You could have just and Rorvet's contract. You could have gone rid of all that. You didn't need to make that stupid trade. You could have been just like, okay, I'll just go and sign Carlos Correa. All right, I'm not going to pick up Sanchez's contract. I don't need to take on $6 million. He obviously has no value in the market. Fine, I'm just going to make that trade for Trevino. I'll sign Correa, put him at third base, or put him at shortstop until our shortstop's ready, and then we'll move him to third. There's common sense right there. Bish, bash, bosh, we've got a good team.
But the thing that I don't get is you can't move him to third base. He's never played there, and people think it's going to be like A-Rod all over again. The only reason that we moved A-Rod to third is because we had Derek Jeter playing shortstop. We don't have Derek Jeter right now. We have Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. So it's not going to be Correa's coming in to play third base. No, he's a platinum glove-winning shortstop. You're going to put him at short. But the thing is, if they didn't want to take IKF off of short for Peraza, who's clearly better, what makes you think they're going to give money to Correa and then switch positions? It just doesn't make sense to me. If you bring in Correa, he is your shortstop. Now, if you said, if you want to move him down the line, fine. A couple of years, but they've already put Peraza at second a few times. They've already played him at third in the minors. They already have Volpe playing other positions. If they get Correa, he's your shortstop for at least 4 years, and they're going to move Peraza in a trade and probably have Volpe play second or third. There's no – thank you, MH. There's no shot you sign Correa and immediately put him at third base because then you're just devaluing him because he's never played there before and expecting him to be as good at third as he is at short. I'm sure he will be fine, but you don't take that risk, especially if you're giving him multiple years for a lot of money. And they're not signing him either way because they got to re-sign Aaron Judge. And once they do that and bring back Rizzo, they're tapped out for the offseason in terms of signings. So it's all hypothetical. But no shot they move him to third base.
No, they had the opportunity to get him last offseason, but like you said, let Minnesota grab him. And he could have been playing shortstop, and we would have had to make the trade with the Twins. We would have had Urshela playing third base, and that shores up the defense like we talked about in the beginning of the show. So it's just Cashman, like Chris said in the comments, again, and we've always said it, Cashman's got to be the smartest man in the room. And nobody else can think the way that he does. And thank God none of us think the way that he does because we'd all be in a lot of trouble in our personal lives.
All right for him, though. He's a member of the family. He can get away with whatever he wants, man.
Exactly.
13 years without a World Series appearance. No, one pennant, 13 years. And we're spoiled. Right.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay, no problem.
We're spoiled, entitled, insert, But – Michael, for the right amount of money, Correa would play center field for the Yankees. No, I don't think center field would be a position.
No, he's joking.
I get what he's saying because, if you pay him enough, he'll play wherever you want me to play. But the point is, he is one or two in terms of shortstops in the league. It's him and Trey Turner. And they're both going to be free agents. Yet again, we got an elite class of free agents at a position that the Yankees need. and they're not going to sign either one of them. But you don't sign a Carlos Correa to play him at another position. You just don't do it. I don't care about – I love Peraza, don't get me wrong. But you don't say, in 28 games he was really good. We're going to make Correa move positions so we can keep him at shortstop. You don't do that. If you sign Correa, Peraza's getting traded somewhere. It's just
that really is a Cashman move, though, that I'm thinking about it. He would sign him for center field.
Well, remember he discussed Chapman and he wanted to move him. Remember he didn't want him to play first base. Where position did he want to play him? Was it first?
He wanted to play him at shortstop.
Shortstop.
That's how. Oh, God damn.
That's Brian Cashman for you.
That's our boy.
But listen, what we do know is Rizzo's opted out. Do you think he's coming back?
If Judge is back, Rizzo's back.
If Judge is back, Rizzo comes back. I think
Like attached to it.
Thank you, Rob's brother. That's just repeated what Rob said verbatim. Thank you, Mini-Me.
Now, Judge and Rizzo, I think they're at this point, Rizzo's maybe a few really good years left in him with that back injury keeps popping up with him. So wherever Judge goes, I think you got Rizzo at maybe a little bit of a discount as well. So they're attached to the hip. They're best friends. They want to play this on the same team. And if you get Judge back, I think I know they want Rizzo back because they don't have a first baseman. DJ LeMahieu ain't a first baseman. In 2 years, you probably have to put him at first, but right now you don't have one. So you have to go out and bring back Rizzo for maybe 2 years. And if Judge is back, Judge will be the first move. And then the domino effect will fall. And the Yankees, I think they're going to get their offseason done rather quickly once they get Judge back, and then they'll make whatever moves they have to make. But I don't see a scenario where Rizzo goes anywhere else unless Judge signs with the Giants, then he'll go with the Giants.
Worried about his back, though.
Yeah, we'll be getting a lot deeper into the free agent frenzy on Thursday, as we'll have Pete Simonetti joining us. And so that'll also be at a very special time at 11:30, not 9:30. But
like Cool Creek. Like Cool Creek.
Yep. So it's going to be
you missed the joke.
it's not even the hour mark and I'm falling apart. But no, we will be here on Thursday. We'll be joined by Pete Simonetti. We'll be breaking down all the free agents, who the Yankees are going to get, which Yankee free agents are going to go elsewhere. We'll be breaking everything down. And it should be a very exciting, energetic, and frustrating show because who knows, a lot of the predictions of the Yankees aren't really getting anybody. So, because the MLB network put out their graphic, and I think they only have the Yankees getting like 2 players this offseason.
Who was it, Judge and Rizzo?
No, Rizzo and Benintendi.
So Judge is going elsewhere according to the MLB network?
MLB network, the 3 panelists all said San Francisco.
Well, then he's going to the Yankees, so that pretty much confirms that he's going to be back.
Yeah.
They're never right.
The whole thing was just so anti-Yankee on that graph because there's no, the Yankees are going to be in on everybody. Every team should be in on every player. That's just the way it is. If you're not looking at a player, you're not doing your fans any service.
Or the Oakland Athletics.
Yeah.
Well, if Judge does leave, tear it up, man. Tear the freaking thing up. Everyone needs to be traded.
Yeah, I think that I'm right there with you on that one because without him, you really don't. You just eliminated yourself from the division. Yeah,
you're just gaslighting your fans if you think that you can roll it back without the guy that hit 62 home runs. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're competing for a championship. We kind of lost our best player and since Derek Jeter. So yeah, we'll be fine. You're right.
Verlander? Oh, I don't think so, Michael. He's back in Houston. I would put money on it that Verlander goes back to Houston.
Yeah, I don't see him.
We offered $20 million last offseason, and Verlander turned it down to go to Houston.
Well, they only offered 1 year. Houston gave him. Well, he opted out, right?
Yeah, it was 1 year with the opt out,
which we didn't offer him. We offered him 25 actually. So that but then they ended up giving that to Donaldson. So they just wanted to give a lot of money to veteran players. I think. Because I don't think I'll be here Thursday for that show. There's a hurricane coming, and it's going to be. Anyway, I do think we get Judge back. We'll bring back Rizzo. We're gonna probably trade for another starting pitcher because we already have 4 on the roster with Severino being back, and their bullpen is okay. They might add like another veteran arm because Diaz is already off the market. $100 million for a closer, Jesus Christ, and maybe they bring back Benintendi. And I think the team is good enough that you can technically run it back, but they will probably be in the same scenario because they can't get over that hump that are the Houston Astros.
Interesting comment from Fats 1927. The Astros are built like the Yankees in the 90s. All Cashman needs to do is go back to how they built the team from 92 to 95. It starts remember Cashman didn't build it. It was Gene Stick Michael that actually built the Yankee dynasty. Brian Cashman augmented it when he joined after, but yeah, he was an intern and he was assistant, but he was never the general manager. It was Gene Michael that really cultivated the talent. Brian Cashman's never once proven that he can cultivate talent, and that's been something that's plagued him since he was announced the general manager in the late 90s, in the mid 90s. So it's just something that continues to haunt him. Yeah, he stockpiles them, and they get through the minors okay, but once they reach the majors under Brian Cashman, they don't succeed.
Yeah.
Apart from Aaron Judge, and that's just the truth. So I like what you're saying. The Fats 1927. I like what you're saying, but the truth is, Cashman will never go back to how it was in the 90s because he is all in on the analytic process. He's not interested in old school anymore. And as he already told you in the press conference, as long as you follow the process, then he's not too worried about results.
No, because he's not, and that would also him be admitting that his process was wrong. And Cashman will never admit that he was wrong. He will spin a million excuses of why it wasn't his fault.
He only did it once when he spent $500 million to win a championship in 2009 and then proceeded to let his World Series MVP walk. So he'd had one good year as a GM, one good year as a general manager, and that's because he spent the money on literally the top 3 free agents. Who were the top free agents going into that offseason? CC Sabathia, AJ Burnett, Mark Teixeira. Who did the Yankees sign? CC Sabathia, AJ Burnett, and Mark Teixeira. So he's the only year that he did anything significant was when he signed those 3 players, and then he let Matsui. They had a literal all-star lineup. There was no holes in that 2009 lineup, and he said, you know what we should do? We should replace Hideki Matsui with Nick Johnson. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah.
And Matsui actually was really good that next year for the Angels. He had a really good year. I was looking at his numbers. It was basically identical to the year that he had the year before for the Yankees. How can you let go of your World Series MVP and say that we're ready for a championship with Nick frickin' Johnson and then Javi Vasquez? That was an offseason from hell.
That was terrible.
And that was 2010. It's now 2022 and he's still here. Are you kidding me?
And then remember this. He could have had Cliff Lee, but he didn't want to give up in that trade. Eduardo Nunez. You want to know why he didn't want to give him up? Hal Steinbrenner said, I thought he was going to be the best player in baseball. So you know what? I take everything back that I said about Hal Steinbrenner. This has been going on for far too long. You could have had Cliff Lee. You know what team got him that year? The Texas Rangers. Who beat us in the playoffs that year? The Texas Rangers. So you didn't want to give up. The trade was Jesus Montero and David Adams. David Adams got hurt, or they were worried about his medical. So they said, give us either Ivan Nova or Eduardo Nunez. They said no because they didn't want to give up a pitcher to get a pitcher. Understandable. I liked Ivan Nova.
Adams?
No. David Adams.
All right, okay.
Infielder. He had like an ankle injury or something that the Mariners are worried about. So they said, give us Nunez or Nova. They said no for Nova, and they said no for Nunez because they thought Nunez was going to be the next Derek Jeter, basically because he was supposed to be a shortstop. They thought that's the future. They were wrong, and shockingly. And, they could have had Cliff Lee. They didn't get Cliff Lee, and the Texas Rangers beat us in the playoffs that year.
Well, to kind of defend that just a little bit is after that 2010 season, Cliff Lee really fell off the cliff. He was never the same pitcher again. So he had one good year out of that.
would have won a World Series again. You're telling me
And
we wouldn't beat
We would have been
Texas?
screaming that we spent all this money on the player that, we only got, even though we got the championship, you have a long contract.
But the truth is, when you win a championship, it's kind of as long as you have a ring, you'll always be remembered for providing that ring. So even if the back end of your contract sucks, you'll be remembered as the dude that won a championship. And that's the truth, man. AJ Burnett was not successful after that 1 year he had in 2009 where he was really good. After that, he was 10-15 with a 5.50 ERA. But nobody really bothers about AJ Burnett. Why? Because I kind of won a championship. And when you win championships, you're always going to be remembered as a champion. So that's what Brian Cashman's forgotten about. He says he never wants to sacrifice championships for a championship. Well, how about you win one championship, then you can worry about multiple championships. And that's what he's completely forgotten about in his own ego and old age. Can I just point out, though, you can't say process over results because results actually decides how your process is being successful or not. You can't say that our process is great, but actually the results aren't good. That means your process isn't good. The Astros have a good process because they have the analytics and they actually win titles. The Yankees don't have a good process because their results aren't good. That's the truth.
Cliff Lee fell off a cliff after that 2010 season.
I don't remember hearing it. Yeah, I know after 2010. I don't think he was ever
Russ coming
there.
back with a fire. Here we go.
He was an all-star in 2011. He had a 2.40 ERA. He had a 3.16 the next year. He had a 2.87 the year after that. At the age of 35, he had a 3.65 ERA. He only started 13 games that year, but
I could have. I don't remember him.
He was a free agent after 2010. He would have been a rental, so they may or may not have re-signed him.
Oh, all right.
All right.
Anybody that knows, my memory is
a goldfish.
Yeah. That's why I try not to reference the past too much because it's usually wrong.
He usually mixes up me and Rob at the start of most episodes anyway. So.
Yeah, I've only done that about a dozen times. Not making no out of it. Join us Thursday because we're going to be breaking down a lot of the free agent talk. And I want to thank everybody that was in the comments, Fats, Chris, Mike. And just remember, we'll be here on Thursday. It's already Tuesday.
Here we go.
With Pete
meltdown started
from NYY News. And just remember, wear your pinstripes of pride and play hard.